All right. Good morning. How's everyone doing? Karibuni sana. If it's 9 a.m., then you know it's time for the Afriforex daily analysis. Karibuni sana from wherever it is that you're joining us from on this lovely 23rd day of January, the year of our Lord 2025. Karibuni sana. For the sake of guys who are joining us for the first time, feel free to join us every Monday to Friday live on YouTube. You will find us here and we'll try and give you as much value as possible. So John Bogo is my name. I'm a trader with Afriforex. Afriforex is a trading unit. So we also do have the rest of the team here. So in case you do have any questions, feel free to ask them on the chat box. But I will also be looking at the questions also in the chat box, but towards the very tail end of this session. But you also don't need to wait until the very end. You still can ask your questions even as the session does continue progressing on. So we're going to jump straight into it. So we'll start off by looking at the watch list. So we just get that up. So you can see the watch list right there, 23rd of January. In comparison to what we did end up having yesterday, a couple of changes. You can see the Canadian dollar has joined the sell side of things. The Australian dollar and the US dollar have gone to the buy side of things. But we will start off by looking at the currency pairs that we did have yesterday that unfortunately did not make it to our watch list. So we'll start off with the euro against the Australian dollar. So for this one, yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities. So you can see the three regions right there that I had pointed out, and also illustrations of what to expect. I had pointed out that the market was in some sort of a range, bouncing off these two regions right here. And in the morning, price was somewhere within this region right here. So I pointed out that maybe there was a pullback that could have been expected, price coming back in within this region where we do have the buyers and of course the bottom of the range. And you can see that price did actually come back in within that particular region there. And the price did actually take off. Unfortunately, it couldn't get all the way to the top, but I did manage to get a buy on this one, somewhere within the exact area where it's pointed out in terms of the virtual trade. And you can see that the price did actually end up going up. Unfortunately, price couldn't get all the way to the top, but at least I did manage the trade, brought the stop loss above break even. And of course, that's the reason why we always keep on pointing out it's important to always make sure that you do watch out for your risk, because the market can easily turn at any given point in time. It's very unpredictable. So you can see that the market came up. The buyers did seem like they came up quite strong. And of course, we're expecting price to possibly end up tapping within that region or maybe even end up going up higher. But unfortunately, you can't see that the market did end up coming down. And of course, considering the fact that the euro and the Australian dollar are both on the same side, we could easily find that that market or that currency pair could actually be moving sideways. So we don't really want to end up signing up for that. So the next one, this is the euro against the US dollar. So for this one, yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities. You can see the three regions right there that I had pointed out. So in the morning, price was here. It was either price to breach to the upside. Then on the pullback, hopefully we did get a hold and a price action signal, maybe look for the buys. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. And you can see that the market came down, more or less pulled around within this region. And of course, today, also not a currency pair that unfortunately we'll not be looking at, because we could easily find that the market could be moving sideways. So unfortunately, we will be walking away from that one. So the next one, this is the Australian dollar against the Swiss franc. So for this one, yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some selling opportunities on this one. So you can see the three areas I had pointed out, and of course, an additional level right there, fourth level. I had entered a trade previously. For those of you that joined us yesterday, remember that I had gotten a trade somewhere within here, and I pointed out that in case the market broke this region to the downside, and hopefully we did get a hold and a nice price action signal, then I could have possibly ended up looking for a sell to come down. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. You can see that the market reacted off this area right here. And unfortunately, you can't see that the buyers did actually end up coming up. Price came back in within that region at the top there. But after that, there was really nothing that the sellers were doing. So unfortunately, that one did not really end up giving us a good opportunity yesterday. So the next one, this is the US dollar against the Swiss franc. For this one also, trying to see whether we could have gotten some selling opportunities. So you can see the three regions there. Also an illustration of what to expect. Price was supposed to break to the downside, give us a possible hold within here before we end up looking for the sell. Seems like the market broke to the downside, gave a really quick and fast pullback and a retest back within that region before the market attempted to come down lower. But unfortunately, we just couldn't make lower lows and lower highs. Maybe that could have been the only opportunity yesterday, but also not the clearest of opportunities. Like I'm pointing out, of course, when you get a trade, you want the market to actually be moving in one particular direction. If it's going up, making higher highs and higher lows. If it's coming down, making those lower lows and lower highs. But unfortunately, that just wasn't the case there. But again, like I'll keep on pointing out, money management is always key. If you do get a trade in, always make sure you do manage your trades. I mean, if you did get the sales, let's say on that one, the market started to move down lower, then it's your responsibility to actually make sure that you make the most out of it, because the markets will definitely keep on fluctuating and turning around, and you never know when that could happen. So the next one, this is the New Zealand dollar against the Canadian dollar. So for this one yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some selling opportunities. You can clearly see the three areas right there that I had pointed out. Also an illustration of what to expect. So in the morning, price was here. I pointed out that it wasn't the best of ideas to look for the sells here, because it was more or less within a buyer's region. You can't see that the market probed within this area twice, came back in. Unfortunately, there was really nothing to tell us to look for sells within here. You can see how fast the buyers came up, and unfortunately, the sellers just couldn't retaliate. The price came all the way till that region at the top, but still, in as much as the sellers showed up, but unfortunately, it's like they showed up, then after that disappeared. And of course, moving into today, not really a currency pair that we will be interested in looking for trades. So the next one, this is the Canadian dollar against the Japanese yen. So for this one, yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities. So you can see the three areas, also some illustrations of what to expect. Price was somewhere here in the morning, and I pointed out that it wasn't the best area to look for buying opportunities. Reason being, you can see those sellers sitting within there. So we're expecting at least to get the price pulling back in within this region here. Or maybe if these sellers had nothing to say about it, maybe a breach to the upside and a nice hold, looking for some price action signals, signs that the sellers are attempting to push the market lower, but unfortunately, if they couldn't, then we could have possibly looked for the buying opportunities there. But you can see that there was a fight that ensued within this region here, but unfortunately, the sellers just couldn't come back in within here. I guess this price somewhere within here was good enough, and you can see that the market did actually push to the upside. So also for this one, not really the best of opportunities. Yesterday, I think, wasn't really the best of days on the charts, but it does happen. Sometimes the markets are very good, sometimes they are not, but it's the nature of trading. So the next one, this is the Great British Pound against the Australian dollar. So for this one, yesterday, we were trying to see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities. Can't clearly see what the game plan was. Price was somewhere here in the morning. I pointed out that it wasn't the best of ideas to look for the buys here, possibly wait for the pullback to come in, because we're expecting the sellers within here to react. And you can see that they did actually push the market down lower. But unfortunately, there were no buyers who were interested in this one yesterday. Like there's no sign of any big buyer anywhere. And even when the price came back in within this region, you still can't see that it's like the buyers were just non-committal. So unfortunately for us, there was really nothing there. And of course, moving into today, also not a currency pair that we will be trying to see whether we can trade. So last but not least, in terms of the review currency pairs, we do have the Great British Pound against the US dollar. So for this one yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten buys. And you can see what the game plan was on this one as well. So in the morning, price was somewhere within here. We're expecting price to come back in, possibly tap back within this area here before we look for the buys, because the market had already started coming down. But unfortunately, we just couldn't get the price coming back in within this region here. And you can see that it just turned off this area, went up, attempted to hold the upside, couldn't, came back down. And I'm guessing maybe price still needs to come back in within this region here. And it seems like price is more or less back within this area, but unfortunately, it's not really a currency pair that we will be trying to see whether we can end up trading. Of course, reason being the Great British Pound and the US dollar are both on the same side, so that might end up being a recipe for disaster. So that's pretty much it in terms of all the currency pairs that we did have yesterday that unfortunately did not make it to our watch list today. So we can move on to look at a screenshot that we did get. We only got one from Bravin, but we're still grateful. I know the markets yesterday were a bit all over the place. Maybe opportunities were a bit slim, but it's good to see that Bravin did actually end up getting some buying opportunities on silver. So I can see that you got some buying opportunity down there and also somewhere within here. Seems like a couple of opportunities there and also somewhere within this region here. Stop losses for your trades, I'm thinking somewhere within this area right here. it's good to see that at least you're getting the trades on the pullback. So if you got this one when the market pulled back in within there and also somewhere within this region here, then this was really good. And at least good to see that you've managed your risk. So shout out to you for that, Bravin, and of course, to keep up the good work. So remember, guys, if you do get any trades, feel free to send them in to us. Our contact details should be there on the video description. And of course, we'll definitely give you the much needed shout out. And in case we do see anything wrong, then we'll definitely point it out. So feel free to also use us as a free resource. We'll give you the much needed advice for free. So shifting matters into matters today. So you can see right there, the 23rd of January, 2025. This is what the game plan is going to be. So hopefully you have taken note of this. So we'll start off by looking at the New Zealand dollar pairs, mix and match them up with everything on the buy side, move on to the yen pairs, the CAD pairs, then we'll finish off with the indices and the commodities like we always do. So we'll start off with the euro against the New Zealand dollar. So for this one, also a currency pair that we had yesterday, and we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities. So you can see the three areas right there that I had pointed out. So in the morning, price was here. Pointed out it wasn't the best of ideas to look for the buys then, and you clearly can't see why now. And the sellers within this region did actually react, and the market came down. And you can see that the pullback was coming in more or less all through all of yesterday and today during the Asian session. The market has actually tapped back within this region right here, and you can start to see some sort of a reaction of the big boy buyers. So let's see. Hopefully, we can still get a slowdown of the sellers within this region right here. I think this could potentially end up giving us a good opportunity, but it's all dependent on what does end up happening. So you still need to be a bit patient. It's not a matter of the fact that the market is back in within a region of support, so you should just be hitting buying opportunity. At least just wait and see if you can at least see that the sellers are actually out. At least there's starting to show some signs that the sellers are possibly getting exhausted, which is good. But hopefully, if the buyers can come in, and let's watch out for the time, hopefully at around 11 during the London market open or thereabout, hopefully we could possibly end up getting a really good buy lifting off this region to the upside. So just make sure that you watch out for that. And also watch out for the region at the top. Clearly can see that the market is in a range. Best area to look for the buys at the bottom of the range, which means that you should be targeting high up within the top of the range within that region there. So even if you'll be attempting to go up higher than that, just make sure that you really do some really good money management within that area. So also watch out for the region at the bottom, a bit of a long shot, but at least if the market finds its way there and we do get something that can tell us to look for buying opportunities, then just make sure that you do end up executing those buying opportunities. So the next one, this is the New Zealand dollar against the Swiss franc. So for this one, also a currency pair we had yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some selling opportunities on this one. So these are the three areas that we did end up having, which are more or less the same areas that we do end up having today. So you can see yesterday, price was somewhere here. Pointed out that hopefully we get the market breaching this region to the downside. Maybe we could have looked for some selling opportunities at that point in time. That didn't happen. But of course, it wasn't the best of areas to look for the sells, especially when price was holding to the upside. And you clearly can't see that the market did push to the upside, came back in within here, but you can see that the sellers have really been struggling, to push the market to the downside. So we'll be waiting to see what does end up happening. The buyers do seem like they're starting to slow down, but there's a possibility we could possibly end up getting some sort of a spike within here. Maybe price attempting to maybe tap back within these sellers, maybe somewhere within this region here. And hopefully if the market does come back into the downside, then I think there could be a very good selling opportunity coming in on this one. So just make sure that you watch out for that. But at least the market is back in within some sort of a seller's region. But also bear in mind that if the market breaks above that red scenario and goes to the upside, then unfortunately there will be no trade for us. So the next one, this is the Great British Pound against the New Zealand dollar. So for this one yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities on this one. So you can see the three areas right there. So aggressive, conservative, semi-aggressive, conservative here. Price was coming down. We're expecting maybe to get the price coming back up. And if it did actually hold to the upside, and I was really timing this one to see if that was going to happen. So I was waiting for price to hold to the upside of this area. We did come back up for potential buys, but unfortunately you can't see that the market went up, came back down, continued to hold beneath this region, and after that you can see that the journey going down continued. So for this one, for today, we will be attempting to see whether we can still get some buying opportunities. The levels are the same. The market is still more or less contained within the same regions. we can already start to see signs of buyers showing up. This one is similar to the euro against the New Zealand dollar in terms of how the pullback has come in back within a region. You can start to see signs of the buyers showing up. So we'll just be waiting to see more of the story within this region. But I think the setup is coming along pretty well. So we'll just wait and see if we can get that slowdown coming in. Then hopefully, just watching out for the times. Hopefully during the London market open, maybe we could get the market lifting off that region there. If that doesn't happen, then just keep an eye out for the US session, from 4, possibly moving into 5:30 thereabout. So just watch out for that. Also remember, in case the market breaks and holds beneath that region to the downside, unfortunately, there will be no trade for us on the Great British Pound against the New Zealand dollar. So the next one, this is the New Zealand dollar against the US dollar. So this is a new entrant on our watch list, and we will be trying to see whether we can get some selling opportunities. So the market has been pulling back. Hopefully the buyers do actually end up slowing down like they are. As the market approaches this region here, we do end up getting a reaction of the sellers. I think this one might also potentially give us some good risk to reward. So hopefully the sellers at the top right there do actually end up reacting, and hopefully if that does end up happening, we could target all the way down here, but just make sure that you also do watch out for this region here, and also some minor SNRs. Can't see like somewhere within this region, potential area where you could run into the opposite party and they could give you some sort of issues. So just make sure that you also watch out for your money management. And I'll keep repeating, money management is key. Trading, many people focus on getting entries in, and they do actually end up getting entries. And it's not that most people can't actually trade and get good entries. They can. It's just that when it comes to money management, many people do actually mismanage. So it's not that people can't make profits. It's just that maybe sometimes because of greed, maybe you haven't done your analysis properly, you've overlooked levels that could potentially give you issues. And that's what actually holds very many people back. So just make sure that you really focus on exits as much as you focus on entries. So the next one and the last and the deep pair, this is the Australian dollar against the New Zealand dollar. So this is also a new entrant on our watch list. We will be trying to see whether we can get some buying opportunities on this one. So you can see that the market is coming back in within some sort of a support region, which is good, but there's a possibility we might actually end up getting a spike. I don't know how far the spike could go, but one thing I know for sure is that price will definitely be going for prices lower than this, because if the market has attempted to go up higher off these prices and it can't, it means that these prices are not good enough, which means that there's a possibility we could get the market coming back in, maybe even tap back, within this region right here. Unless you're highly skilled in terms of getting such kind of entries, I would best suggest you possibly just wait for the market, possibly do the spike, come back up. If it holds within here, you look for that buy off that region here. This buy is much safer. These ones are extremely aggressive. And of course, unless you're a real cowboy on the charts, and you really have a lot of experience on the charts, I wouldn't really advise you to possibly end up going for those ones. So wait for that, or possibly if the market comes back in within this region here, you could potentially find that the market might need these buyers down within this area to actually get the job done. So also just make sure that you also do watch out for that region, but bearing in mind that that's going to be the last area where we will be attempting to see whether we can get our aggressive buying opportunities. So that's pretty much it in terms of the NZD pairs. So right now we're going to move on to the yen pairs, and we're going to do the same, mix and match them up with everything on the buy side. So we'll start off with the euro against the Japanese yen. So for this one, yesterday, also a currency pair we had, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities. So you can see the three areas right there that I had pointed out. So in the morning, price was somewhere within here. We're expecting price to tap back in within this area here. And if we did get a hold, this could have been a good buy. And you can see that the market did actually end up doing that. So it attempted to come down, went up, came still back in within this region right here. And if you look at the times at around 11, which is during the London market open, and that's when the market did actually start moving up, seems to be trending up pretty well, because you can see that the market broke this region to the upside, retested, broke this area, retested, came back in within that region, and it's come back all the way to within this area. And you can see that sellers are now starting to give some sort of issues. So for this one, for today, we'll still be attempting to see whether we can get some buying opportunities. So these are the three areas that I will be watching out to see what does end up happening. So feel free to feel free to take note of those areas rather. So let's see what happens. But right now, in terms of looking for the buying opportunities, it's not really the best. You can see that the market has found some sort of resistance area at the top there. So we could find the market pulling back in. Could be on the pullback phase during the London session. If that happens, then the market is back at least somewhere within this region during the US session. I think that could be a very good buy. But also, in case that doesn't end up happening, then we'll be fast waiting to see if we can get a breach of this region to the upside. If that doesn't end up happening, then at least on the pullback, we'll try and see whether we can actually end up looking for some buying opportunities there. So watch out for that. Also watch out for the region at the bottom. It's a bit of a long shot, especially considering the fact that the yens have been showing a lot of weakness. But in case the market finds its way there, then at least just make sure that you're also ready for that. So moving on into the next one, this is the Swiss franc against the Japanese yen. So for this one, yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities, and you can see the three areas right there that I had pointed out. So aggressive, conservative, semi-aggressive, conservative, somewhere within this region here. And you can also see some sort of illustration that I had put of what to expect. But unfortunately, this one didn't give some proper pullbacks like back within this region, like we had seen on the euro against the Japanese yen. But technically, you can see that the market did hold here, went up, came back in, bounced off this area, went up, came back in within this region here. And you can see that also this one is in some sort of an upward trend. So for this one, we will be waiting to also see if we can get some sort of a pullback. Right now, in terms of looking for the buying opportunities, and the market is high up within this region here is not really the best of ideas. If you do that, you could easily end up joining the 95 or the 90% of the people who actually don't end up making money in FX. So we'll be waiting to see whether we can get some sort of pullback coming in, at least maybe till somewhere within here, if it doesn't come all the way till within this area, because you can see that there's some sort of an SNR within that region there. But at least what I would say is the deeper the pullback, the better in terms of profit potential, because it will end up turning a lot of people to actually end up looking for trades in the opposite direction. So let's see what happens on this one. And of course, just like I pointed out on the euro against the Japanese yen, if that doesn't happen and the market breaks above this region to the upside, then I guess the next best entry could actually be after we actually get the pullback coming in back within this region here. So watch out for that. Also watch out for the red SNR. It doesn't have to actually end up having that level there. In case the market finds its way there, then at least you should be ready for that as well. So the next one, the Great British Pound against the Japanese yen. So for this one, yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten buys. You can see something similar with the yens, even on this one, something similar with what we've seen on the others. So in the morning, price was here. We're expecting to see some attempts of the sellers to possibly push the market down, and of course, strong buyers coming in. And you can see that that did actually end up happening off this support region twice. And you can see that the market went up, reached this region to the upside, came back in, retested this high once again, went up, came back in within here. So even this one is in some sort of an upward trend. So we'll be waiting to see if we can get a higher low, for us to actually end up looking for those buying opportunities. So right now, same story with the others. More or less all of them are within regions of resistance. So let's wait and see if we can get some sort of a reaction. Price hopefully coming back in within this region here. If it does, I think some very good buying opportunities could be hiding somewhere within this region right here. So just make sure that you watch out for that. And of course, if it breaks to the upside, like we discussed on the others, then it's a matter of waiting for the breach first, then the pullback after. So the next one, this is the US dollar against Japanese yen. So this is a new entrant on our watch list. So we'll be attempting to see whether we can get some buying opportunities on this one. So these are the three areas that we'll be watching out to see what happens. But you can see almost some sort of similar characteristics with the rest of the yens. The good thing about the yens is that most of the time, they're actually well correlated much of the time. So right now is one of those times when it's, they're in perfect synchronization. So for this one, you can also see it's like we've analyzed the same chart 4 or 5 times over. So the game plan is the same. This one is moving up. Yesterday, the market went up. The market has made some sort of a higher high. We'll be waiting to see if we can get the pullback coming in. There's a possibility price could come back in within here. And if it does, just watch out also for the rest of the yens. At least if you see the pullbacks happening on all of them, then there's a possibility when they do actually end up turning, they will also end up turning together as a bunch. So if that does end up happening, then at least you could also end up grabbing a number of them, but also making sure that you also watch out for your risk. Because if you do end up taking all of them and you end up exposing yourself to too much risk and the market goes against you, then there's a possibility you will be sleeping hungry today. So just make sure that you also do watch out for your risk. Maybe also try and see which ones do actually end up giving the best profit potential, because I don't really think that all of them will give you the same profit potential. So you could pick the ones that actually give you the best profit potential. So last but not least, for the yen pairs, we do have the Australian dollar against Japanese yen. New entrant on our watch list, but the game plan is the same. You can't see the charts look identical. They look similar. So this one has also been coming up pretty well. Came up yesterday. It's found some sort of a resistance area high up within there. Let's see if we can get the market pulling back in within this region here. If that does end up happening, then I guess we could possibly end up getting some really good buying opportunities within there. If that doesn't end up happening and the market breaks to the upside, then maybe we could get some more conservative buying opportunities high up within this region here. So watch out for that. Quite a number of minor SNRs that are also in between. But the problem with those type of resistance or support and resistance areas is that the profit potential might actually not be that great. So that's the reason why I'm saying that if we get some proper deep pullbacks, at least the profit potential also ends up being very good. But it doesn't mean that you can't get the trades off those levels. You still can. But you really need to be a real sniper on the charts to get some proper risk to reward on those trades. So that's pretty much it in terms of the yen pairs. So right now we're going to move on to the Canadian dollar pairs. We're going to do the same, mix and match them up with everything on the buy side. So we'll start off with the euro against the Canadian dollar. So this is a new entrant on our watch list, and we will be attempting to see whether we can get some buying opportunities. So these are the three areas I will be watching out to see what does end up happening. So feel free to take note of them. So right now the market is more or less holding beneath a region of resistance, which might not really be the best of areas to actually look for your buying opportunities. So there's a possibility the market can easily react off this area right here. And I'm really hoping it does, because if it comes back in within this area right here, I mean, based on the story of what price is telling us, it seems that price should be coming back in within this area right here for some sort of a retest. If that does happen, I'm thinking the best buying opportunities could actually be somewhere within this region here. In case that doesn't happen, then I guess we would have to wait and see if we can get a breach of this region to the upside. And of course, after that, on the pullback, maybe we could actually end up looking for the buying opportunities. But I'm really hoping price comes back in within this region here. The buys high up within this area could be a bit risky, especially considering the fact that you can see that the price had actually gone up high above this area right here. This was on Tuesday. And you can see that the buyers had come up quite aggressively, and yet the sellers were still able to contain them. So looking for the buying opportunities within this region right here, even if the market breaks to the upside, I think you need to be very, very careful about those buying opportunities. But at least if it does pull back in within here, I think this buy might actually give you lesser issues. And of course, in terms of risk, I think it might actually end up bearing lesser risk than looking for the buying opportunities higher up within there. But also watch out for that region at the bottom. Of course, in case the market finds its way there, then of course we can also end up trying to see whether we can get some aggressive buying opportunities. So moving on into the next one, this is the Canadian dollar against the Swiss franc. So this is also a new entrant on our watch list, and we will be trying to see whether we can get some selling opportunities on this one. So hopefully you can end up taking note of those three areas right there. So let's see what happens. Right now, the market is more or less in the middle of nowhere. So I wouldn't really suggest that you end up looking for any buys or any sells. It's better to first wait and see, at least if the market can pull back in within this region here, maybe challenge, those sellers within this area right here. Maybe if they do end up getting incited, maybe they could actually end up reacting, and we could find the market actually starting to move to the downside. So let's wait and see what happens. But also, in case that doesn't end up happening, then I guess we'll just have to wait and see if we can actually end up getting the market breaking beneath this region to the downside, get some sort of pullback within this area right here before we actually end up getting or looking for selling opportunities. But in terms of looking for the sells within here, you can see that there's a buyer who's actually sitting within this region right here. You can see that previously the market went up quite aggressively. The sellers have come down quite slow. This buyer seems to be holding the market. So you can't quite tell what they might actually end up doing. So it's best to actually end up waiting to see if at least the market can come back in within there, if we do actually get a breach to the downside of that conservative area before we actually end up looking for some selling opportunities. So moving on into the next currency pair, this is the Great British Pound against the Canadian dollar. So for this one, also a new entrant on our watch list, and we will be trying to see whether we can get some buying opportunities on this one. So watch out for those three areas right there. You can see that the market has started to get into some sort of a range here. This one looks similar to the euro against the Canadian dollar. So you can see that the market went up. It's being held somewhere within this region right there. And also for this one, it's exactly the same. So if you do see a move on one, make sure that you also do end up having a look at the other. But I'm really hoping the market also bounces off that region, comes in lower, possibly somewhere within that area right there before the market attempts to go to the upside. So I'm really going to be keeping an eye out for that region at the center right there. I think that could potentially end up being the best buying opportunity, especially also considering the fact that, if you also factor in the market structure, to some extent, the market is getting into some sort of a range. It's not really the best looking range. I know when we end up drawing them on the whiteboard, it's very clear, but when you come on the charts, it ends up being a bit messy because you can't see all sorts of spikes and probes to the downside. But generally, somewhere at least within this region right here, it looks like there could be a true SNR. And hopefully, if price does come back in within that region, I think there could potentially end up being some very good buying opportunity within that region. So watch out for that. Of course, if that doesn't happen and the market breaks to the upside, just like we discussed on the euro against the Canadian dollar, you really need to be careful about those buys high up within here. You can see that also for this one, the market had come up high, but the sellers were able to shut down the buyers. So you could easily end up getting shut down within that area right there. So just make sure that you're also quite careful in terms of the buying opportunities high up within there. So the next one, this is the US dollar against the Canadian dollar. So for this one, yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some selling opportunities. So you can see that in the morning price was here, the red SNR was high up there. So it's just interchanging the two levels that we had, but we're expecting price to possibly come back in within this region here before we look for the sells. So the market came down, bounced off here, came up within this region right here. And unfortunately, we just couldn't get a move of the sellers. And you can see that the buyers, I think they stepped up within this region quite aggressively. And it's like the sellers were a bit stunned. So it's like they were just not interested with that. Or even if they were, maybe they were unable, based on how the big boy actually stepped up within that particular region. So for this one for today, we're going to be going the other way. So we'll be trying to see whether we can get some buying opportunities. The levels are the same, it's just switching them up. The game plan has switched. So we will be waiting to see whether we can get the market at least coming back in within here. I'll be looking out to see whether I can get some sort of a price action signal, some sort of a slowdown of the sellers, the big boy buyers coming in, and you could find that the market could actually end up blasting off this area to the upside. Hopefully, we do end up reaching this region. I think we should be coming back in to maybe challenge these sellers who actually pushed the market to the downside on Tuesday. So let's wait and see what happens, but you definitely will need to watch out for this area because you could also find that some sort of a reaction happening off this area right here. So you don't really want to get caught off guard. So make sure that you also do factor in that level right there. And of course, if we do breach to the upside, you could look for more conservative buying opportunities within this area. But the profit potential, I don't know how that is going to go, considering that we only have about 30 pips, which is not too bad. I mean, if you're a real sniper and you can get stop losses of maybe 10 pips or so or less somewhere within this region right here, I think this trade might also be for you. But at least if you get the trade here and you're not that good at trading, just manage your trade there and just see if you can actually end up getting all the way till the top somewhere within that region there. So watch out for that. Also watch out for the region at the bottom. In case the deep pullback does end up coming in, then at least you should also be ready for that as well. So last but not least, in terms of the currency pairs, we do have the Australian dollar against the Canadian dollar. So for this one yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some selling opportunities as well. But I think the Canadian dollar pairs yesterday were not really cooperative as such, because we did want to see strength coming in. But unfortunately, that strength did not really come in yesterday. So that's the reason why we switched the plan. Let's see if hopefully we'll end up getting some good selling opportunities on the Canadian dollar pairs. So for this one, you can't see what the game plan was yesterday. I was expecting to see if I could have gotten the price, maybe holding beneath this region to the downside before we look for sales, or maybe the price coming back in within here. So the pullback came in. But like you can see, the sellers were really nowhere to be seen. Of course, off this area, right, you're expecting maybe some sort of a reaction, but unfortunately, that just did not happen. So for this one, for today, we're going to be going the other way. So let's see if we can get the pullback coming in. So these are the three areas that I will be watching out for. And of course, the rest of the Forex team will be waiting to see what happens. At least if we can get the pullback happening and coming back in within this region here, I think if the market comes back in for some sort of a retest of this area right here, maybe I think some very good buying opportunities could be lacking somewhere within there, about 30 pips. So let's wait and see what does end up happening. But of course, also watch out for the deeper pullback. In case that does end up happening, just make sure that you also do have the red SNR down there. In case the market finds its way there, then at least we do know that that is going to be the last area. We will be trying to see whether we can get our aggressive buying opportunities. So that's pretty much it in terms of the currency pairs. So hopefully you have taken note of what the game plan is on that front. So we're going to be moving on into the indices and the commodities. You can see that they are all still on the buy side of things, all of them. So we'll start off with the NAS 100. So in terms of what we're going to be watching out for this one today, or even before we get into today, let's even just do a brief recap of what happened yesterday. So yesterday we're watching out for buying opportunities, and you can see the three regions right there that I had pointed out, also an illustration of what to expect. Unfortunately, the pullback did not just come in, and you can see that the market just broke above this area in a very choppy manner and seemed to have been holding within here before the market actually picked up some steam. This was during the New York Stock Exchange Open. If you look at the times at exactly 5:30, that's when the market actually pushed to the upside. And I did mention that sometimes the markets do that, where the market breaks a particular level, then seems to be, holding in a very choppy manner. Then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, the market just picks up some steam. That does end up happening. But the one thing that you should know as a trader, and if you want to get, your trading right and watch out for your risk, is that you should always be waiting for the pullbacks, regardless. In terms of taking breakout trades, it can actually end up being very, very risky. And we've been there, and we advise you these things. We advise you based on things we've done and we've lost money, not things that we went to school and we studied. So we're talking out of experience. Sometimes the market will break above, especially if it doesn't give you what you need to see. Like over here, we're expecting maybe to get the market attention to come to the downside, where you can visually see, that the sellers are actually attempting to push to the downside, but they're unable before the buyers show up, before you take the buy. It's much safer to actually end up doing that, because the number of times that, let's say out of 10 times, you actually end up taking a trade when the market just breaks above a particular level and just holds, and you're thinking that you're going to take that buy and it's going to move. Those breakout trades, out of 10, you'll find that majority of them are actually going to incur you losses. So that's the reason why it's always best to actually wait and see if you can visually see something, that gives you a bit more confirmation and more confidence to actually take your trade. It doesn't mean that when the market shows you exactly what you need to see, that the setup is going to work out. And that's the reason why you always have a stop loss, because you always need to make sure that you're watching out for your risk. But at least in terms of increasing the probability, it's always best to make sure that, your entry criteria is always solid and you're following it to the T. And that's exactly what we do. And of course, that has come over time based on being character developed by the markets, time and time again. So for this one, for today, we're going to still be trying to see whether we can get buys. Let's see if we can get something clear on this one. So those are the 3 or 4 areas. I know it's not very common to have 4 levels, but of course, sometimes if the story does end up necessitating, so then that's exactly what we do. So there's a level at the top there. There's somewhere within this region here and somewhere within this area here. You can see that the bar is pushed up from there. But if we do end up going up a higher time frame to the 1 hour, you will see that this is actually one move. So instead of having 3 levels that are, quite wide, and there are still quite a number of levels in between, it's better off to end up having 4 levels. And that's the reason why on this one, it's not very common, but for today, we will be watching out for these 4 areas right here. If the buys don't happen from there, then we will be watching out to see what happens within here. but this is going to be the last area where we will be attempting our aggressive buying opportunities. And remember, for the indices and the commodities, it's not like the currency pairs where we fall back, if the market breaks beneath or above the red SNR. For these ones, if the market breaks and holds beneath or above the red SNR, then at least we can actually end up looking for trades in the opposite direction, but in a more confident manner. Remember that you can still also end up getting some counters. Like, for example, like on this one, the US 30, we're trying to see whether we can get buys. It doesn't mean that there can't be some selling opportunities. There can be there. But the only problem with looking for the counters is that counters are very risky, especially considering the fact that the market is going up. You can't quite tell at what point in time the big boys are going to show up. So that's the reason why we always point out that it's good to know what the direction is, and that's the reason why we give it to you. But in case if you do end up seeing some counters and you want to take them and you're confident, by all means, make sure that you end up going for them. But the biases, of course, we end up giving that to you. So for this one, we're going to be trying to see whether we can get some buying opportunities. Yesterday, that was the same case. You can see the 3 regions, which are the exact same regions that we do have today. So I was expecting maybe some sort of a pullback coming in within here. That didn't happen, or maybe the market breaking and holding above this area to the upside. So you can see that the market broke and actually held to the upside, but you can see that we do need to see the big boys possibly coming in, because you can see that they showed up, the market went up. Seems like there's some sort of resistance area that's somewhere high up within there, and you can see that the buyers are really struggling to get past that region to the upside. So there's a possibility the market could potentially end up still coming back in within this region right here. They might need to regroup, before the market actually goes to the upside. So let's wait and see if that does end up happening. If that doesn't happen and we can't get the pullback coming in, either till within here or hopefully, and I'm really hoping that we get a deep pullback, coming back in within here, at least also to stop out a good number of late traders who are attempting buying opportunities right now, because you can imagine all the guys who are hitting buys right now and they're wondering what's going on. The market is just not moving. There's a possibility they will get stopped out and they'll be left hanging high up within there. So let's see if we can actually get either the market at least clearing this region to the upside. On the pullback, we could look for the buys. If that doesn't happen, then let's watch out for this area. And of course, we also do have those 2 other areas down at the bottom within those regions, clearly identified there. So moving on into the next one. So silver. Yesterday, the bus was to try to see whether we could get some buying opportunities. So these are the 3 areas that we had yesterday, which are the same today. And shout out to Bravin, for the buy that you did get. Keep up the good work. So you can see also an illustration of what to expect. We're expecting the market to pull back in within this region. It did. And you can see that the only buying opportunities that happened yesterday actually took place off this region right here, going to the upside, challenge those sellers. You can see that the sellers have reacted. The market is on the pullback phase during the Asian session. Let's see what happens. So if we do get the market setting itself up properly, before at least the US session open and we find the market ready, somewhere within this area at around 5:30, I think there could be a potential buy that might actually end up happening off that region there. But also watch out for the region at the bottom. In case the pullback does end up coming in deeper, then at least we should also be ready for that. So last but not least, we do have gold. Now for gold, yesterday, the bus was also to try and see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities as well. So you can see the 3 regions, more or less the same areas. I had set an alert somewhere here. I was expecting, hopefully, to get the market coming back in within this region. And I think most probably it still will end up possibly coming back in within that area. And that's the reason why we still do have that alert there, because I know that this is a region of interest, this central area right here. So if the market finds its way back within this region here, I think there could be some very good buying opportunities that might actually end up happening off that area, but we'll have to wait and see. Hopefully the London big boys give us some sort of a pullback. Then during the US session, price ends up being somewhere within this particular region here before we actually end up looking for the buying opportunities. So for this one, even just to recap a bit on what happened yesterday, remember I pointed out that looking for the buying opportunities high up above here could have been a bit risky and you might actually not end up going very far. You can't see that's the case. So the market, especially considering the fact that these sellers showed up quite aggressively here, the buyers did push to the upside, the market did hold, but you can see that the market has been held hostage within this area here. So that means that there's a high probability that those prices within there are not really going to be working out in terms of buys. And there are very, very many people worldwide who are actually hitting their buying opportunities high up within there, but they don't know what they're signing up for. So I hope that you're not going to be part of them and you're not going to be joining the bandwagon. Even if the market at least does end up breaking above this region to the upside, it doesn't mean that those buying opportunities are the best, because we still do need some sort of a pullback. Because of course, if it starts to move up higher, even more people are going to be jumping in on the buys, because it's becoming very, very obvious that the market is actually moving to the upside. So just be sure that you're a bit more careful on that. But at least if we do get the pullback, I think the buys within here in terms of profit potential, in terms of risk, those ones are going to be spot on. So let's wait and see what does end up happening. But also, it doesn't mean that because I've pointed that out, because I know that some guys might end up taking everything I say to the T. That doesn't mean that you should generally end up looking for the selling opportunities. Because remember, the trend is your friend. We're still going up. Just because I pointed out that we should be expecting a pullback doesn't mean that the pullback will come in. You still could end up jumping in on the sell and you could easily end up getting stopped out. So just make sure that you also do factor that in. So I guess that's pretty much it in terms of everything. So looking at the chat box, so I can see a bit of chit chat going on there. I see Esther Kabiro there saying, good morning team, happy 2025. Good to see you here. Esther, hope you're keeping well on the chat and in everything else you're doing. And of course, I really do hope that it's going to be a happy 2025. So good to see you there. Margaret Jogona, good to see you there. You're also saying good morning to you too. Karibu sana. Esther, you're saying that thank you, Afi, this is home. Karibu sana. Ivy Wanyama, you're saying good morning to you back. Esther Kabir is saying that it's always a vibe, girl, ladies in Forex. I think you're having a bit of chit chat with the team there, which is okay. Junior Otino, you're saying morning traders. Karibu sana, Junior. And I see Daniel Simiyu there, Arcade and Bicket. Good to see you. You're saying good morning, team. Good morning back. So hopefully it's going to be a beautiful day on the charts. And I really do hope that you do kill it on the charts. And of course, in everything else that you do end up doing. If you do get some good setups in, whether good or bad, feel free to send them in to us. If you need more help, also feel free to reach out to us. Our contact details are right there in the video description. And of course, also remember, in case you don't have a trading account, we do have a link right there. And I think it should also be in the chat box where you can end up opening MT5 free trading account with Windsor Brokers. We've looked at very many brokers, and of course, that's our preference. So feel free to also end up checking them out, try them out, see how they are. Of course, it's not always best to take my word for it. You go try it out yourself and see. So I guess with that, we'll see you guys tomorrow. So with that, happy trading. And as always, may the peeps be with you. Also remember to like and subscribe, turn on the bell notification so that immediately we are live, at least you will be notified. So God bless. And bye for now. May the peeps be with you. God bless.